Hi everyone, today I'm going to discuss the concept of data-driven decision-making, or DDDM, and a framework for developing a strategic plan. Well, the first question you might ask is, what exactly is DDDM? According to Manzanak and Jackson, teachers today need credible evidence to inform their practice. Only then can a teacher make informed decisions that tailor instruction towards specific needs of students. Today, I am researching about the attendance levels of students in East Kalgoorlie Primary School, so I'm not using DDDM in the classroom as such, but it is still informing decisions that will affect what goes on there. Attendance rates of Indigenous students is a multifaceted problem, and much data must be collected, analysed and reported on before action can take place. I'm using Stringer's methodology for dealing with data to create a solution to the problem of non-attendance levels in East Kalgoorlie Primary School. Stringer suggests that firstly, I set the stage by deciding on my research problem. Then I will collect the relevant data. Shaddock believes questions are pivotal for this. Who, what, why and how. I've inserted them in brackets on the PowerPoint slides to show they have been part of the research process. Then there is analysis of the data where I sift through my research and only have included what's relevant. I report on the findings and finally offer possible solutions where I have created my own policy to address the non-attendance problem. Let's begin with the data. I draw data from all the closing gap reports, reviews, papers and statistics past and present. So these are all the different data papers. Closing the Gap reporting is aimed at improving life for the Indigenous Australian community and has been around since 2008. However, different strategies have been added to these reports each time a review is conducted. Hence, the target to close the gap in school attendance was only added in 2014. Why is attendance important? Education can be the catalyst for improving life outcomes in the long term. Non-attendance on a regular basis makes regular classroom learning more difficult for any student. Concepts are not understood because students have missed crucial days of instruction, and feelings of dislike towards learning occurs because it becomes harder to understand, and thus a vicious cycle of non-attendance is born. Unfortunately, it's also during this time when a choice is made about future schooling. Hattie suggests that during the early adolescent years, a decision is made whether to continue at school or drop out. Early adolescence begins at the age of 9 or 10, years 4 or 5 at primary school, so this lack of attendance affects the whole future of the Indigenous child. Let's look to Purdy and Buckley, their 2010 CTG report. Reasons for non-attendance might be a lack of engagement at school, poor teaching, a lack of connection with the teacher, poor parental attitudes towards education, and a lack of aspiration in the student. Because of this data, we try to directly address attendance rates by providing incentives or rewards for attendance and sanctions for non-attendance. Also, an attempt was made to increase the level of Indigenous rates of literacy and numeracy, hoping that success in the classroom would motivate Indigenous students to attend more regularly. All of these strategies were noted as failing. Strategies from the 2019 CTG report show nothing is working. If we can create an incentive for parents to want their children to regularly attend school, they will be less likely to want to drop out and continue with this cyclical nature of poverty and disadvantage that's characterising most of the East Kalgoorlie Indigenous community. The Indigenous parents must be targeted to encourage schooling for their children. We noticed in the 2019 CTG report, 50 years of ABSTUDY is being celebrated as a success. ABSTUDY works for students in higher education. Would a monetary motivation be enough of an incentive to target parents? So what conclusions can we draw from all this data? Teaching in Kalgoorlie needs to be of an exceptional standard. Indigenous students need to have a positive view of their culture. When this occurs in the classroom, they feel welcomed and more accepted in the learning environment. It's also important that Indigenous students feel a sense of belonging, a choice and an ownership over their learning. Otherwise, attendance rates will continue to plummet, only adding to the cyclical levels of disadvantage in East Kalgoorlie. There needs to be a scheme to motivate parents into the workforce in Kalgoorlie. Only then can families get out of the cycle of economic disadvantage that impacts on student attendance and therefore learning, which then affects their ability to enter the workforce later in life. We need to address transiency. The East Kalgoorlie IPS put transiency at 92%. Today, transient lifestyles are not helpful, especially for school children. Whereas in traditional times, transiency was a way of survival for Indigenous people, it is not today. Transiency can be addressed with the same scheme of no school, no attendance, no child support. Children should remain in one school each year, parents choosing only to travel during term breaks in the school year. We know that parental attitude towards schooling is the key to regular attendance. If parents are targeted by reducing their welfare or child benefit amounts, if school is not regularly attended, attendance rates will surely climb. This way, Indigenous students will feel encouraged to attend school not only by the teachers, but also by their parents. And because of this, Indigenous achievement rates will also climb. Education needs to be directed at parents to help them understand the need and importance for their children's schooling. Education should also connect parents to other community organisations and to each other. In both the 2010 and 2019 Closing the Gap reports, this was deemed as most important. Community connections between Indigenous cultures and schools were one of the most important factors affecting attendance rates. So what other data do I need? Firstly, we need primary data comprising of interviews of both the students and parents to see what reasons there are for non-attendance. We need secondary data from questionnaires of staff, students and parents about possible curriculum topics to engage the Indigenous students. We need reports of participation and engagement levels of the students in class. We need health records, social disadvantage statistics, including housing conditions, family health records, are there family domestic issues, parental involvement in the child's schooling, level of community involvement in the East Kalgoorlie Primary School. Considerations. Are parents willing to be interviewed? If not, a questionnaire. Is parental literacy sufficient for this? This begs the question, how is engagement recorded? After the changes have been enacted, attendance levels need to be recorded and interviews with students and staff to see if there is a difference in student engagement and enjoyment at school. So, what is my strategic plan? There needs to be possible adjustments to curriculum. There needs to be an adjustment to community and parental influence in school involvement in schooling. Indigenous parents must make a considerable effort to assist their children to attend school. Positive parental engagement in learning improves academic achievement, well-being and productivity. We need to enact the policy, no school, no child support. Then monitoring and constant review of engagement and attendance levels needs to occur. The data collected needs to be an impetus for action. Data shape the landscape of our professional lives. It is through this evidence that change will take place. These changes need to be constantly monitored to complete the cycle of inquiry that all data must pass through. DDDM does not ever stop. It must be continually developed. There must be a constant collection and analysis of data to optimise teaching and learning. In the same way, data and analysis surrounding attendance rates of Indigenous students must never wane, in the hope Indigenous attendance levels at East Kalgoorlie Primary School will dramatically improve when these new policies are enacted. Thank you for listening to my review.